and let him know about it.
That's
Dr.
right.
West.
That's right. And I'll say too, though, brother, I don't want to be in that meeting either.
I don't think you're going to be invited.
I wouldn't, but I wouldn't go.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go.
Yeah.
Because as a Jesus-loving free black man, I'd be in a crack house for the White House. And the reason why I would is because at least the crack addicts are honest about their addiction. The White House is addicted to power. They're addicted to power. That's why you got to bring power to bear. But my calling is not just about power. My calling has to do with love and justice. And love and justice is always weak. That's precisely why the black prophetic tradition in the history of this nation has been the leaven in the American democratic loaf. Because we recognize that first you have to have a suspicion of government. This is why I resonate with my conservative brother. And the reason why is Martin Luther King Jr. was under the FBI surveillance from January 1956 till the day he died. Governments can be repressive, vicious, ugly, violate your rights, violate your liberties, crush your people, generate the propaganda. We need that sensibility too. Governments can also be affirmative if they're helping poor and working people. Governments can use their power to support corporate elites. That's the beginning of crypto-fascism, when they come together with no accountability whatsoever, not just politically, but economically. That's in part where things are moving. Let me say this. Martin Luther King Jr. today could be taken to jail without due process or judicial process under the National Defense Authorization Act, because he had a connection with a freedom fighter who was called a terrorist named Nelson Mandela. He just got off the terrorist list in 2008 of America. Let's be honest about that. Because he had a relation to a terrorist, and under the present administration, you can assassinate Americans, you can take them to jail without due process. That's a repressive side of the government that the black freedom movement has always been suspicious of. We got black political prisoners right now in America. And they're in there precisely because the repression came down so hard and their love was such that they were willing to tell the truth that was a threat to the status quo. And we don't even talk about them. That's why the culture of fear is not just silence, I don't think, my dear sister. People are afraid. They're afraid to lose their jobs. They're afraid to lose their status. They're afraid of not going to the nice tea parties. They're afraid of not going to the White House. You can't have a culture of fear and generate a movement. That's why it's not just about justice. Any justice that's only justice will soon degenerate into something less than justice. We got to talk about love. Martin was a titan of love. If you're not talking about love and willingness to sacrifice, all this is just sounding brass and tinkling cymbal. We're not going nowhere.
But how you going to talk about
love? We're not going nowhere.
But Doc,
you got to hit the streets. You got to go to jail. You got to be willing to die. That's what the movement's about. And if you're not willing to do that, then keep your jobs and drink your tea. That's what we're talking about. We're in a state of emergency.
Let me ask you, Doc.
We're in a sense of urgency. People are dying out here.
Since you went there, this comes as, this is foreign to a lot of people because Martin's been gone for so long now. We come back so often to Dr. King tonight because the nation knows the president will be sworn into a second term on Monday on the King holiday. First time any president will be sworn in with the King Monument just blocks down the street. The president will put his hand on the Bible of Martin Luther King Jr. as he is inaugurated on Monday. And that's why King he's always present in our conversations, but he's so present in this room tonight in the city, in the District of Columbia. But Doc, since you raised this notion of love, since Martin, the notion of love in our public policy has been absent. You talk about or try to put love, we've heard in the last 8 years, we heard about compassionate conservatism. I want to come back and ask you in a moment, whatever happened to compassionate conservatism? But love at the center of our public policy, it's like oil and water. It's a foreign concept, but that's exactly what Martin did. He put love in the center of the public square. Why have we abandoned that notion? And love just means that everybody's worthy just because.
That's exactly right. No, it's the rule of money. We live in the rule of money. Everybody's up for sale. Everything is up for sale. And you can't have integrity, you can't have love, you can't have trust if everything's up for sale and everybody's up for sale. If your leaders are up for sale, then they're going to talk one way and get inside and do something else. That cuts across ideology, cuts across political party. That's why both parties are so tied to the rule of money. But it's big money. It's not poor people's money. It's big money. You see? So that we talk about love, this is not namby-pamby stuff. You see, for black people who've been hated for 400 years, institutionalized hatred coming at us, and we dish out John Coltrane. We dish out Curtis Mayfield. We dish out Martin King. We dish out Ida B. Wells Barnett. That love in the face of that hatred, that's a spiritual high ground. It's a moral high ground, and the whole country had to take note of it with Martin. The whole world had to take note of it, and that is what is weak and what is feeble. And it's not a question of skin pigmentation. It's a question of the quality of your morality and your spirituality, and all of us are cracked vessels. All of us fall short. But if we don't accent it, then the children continue to perish.